Hello everybody, happy Friday night. Welcome to my Zen Den. I am so glad that you could join me. My name is Mandy and I am an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! From Gray Eagle, Minnesota. And tonight I am going to share with you a couple of cards with a stamp with a stamp set from the annual catalog called Super Cool. It is like the perfect summer stamp set. It's a very vintage looking and I just love it. And I'm pairing it with a set of dies. They're actually standalone dies, again, from the annual catalog. They're called Nested Essentials. I really, really like them. They've kind of got a little bit different shapes to them and they just are really, really neat. So I'm going to flip the camera around and we are going to get stamping. Hold on one second. All right. Oh, there's my glasses. Get rid of those. I'm hitting that age, you know, where sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Okay, so stamp set is Super Cool. It is a photopolymer stamp set, and I just love all the images. They're just so vintage and so neat. The ice cream cone, the sweet cola, bottle of soda. The sentiments are super cool. You are so sweet. Hey there and love. So you can, hey there, love. You are so sweet. You are so super. You are so cool. Just really, it's really neat. You can do a lot of combinations with that. And these are the Nested Essentials dies. They are just really kind of basic shape dies. They're nice rounded corners, which are always really fun. The banners kind of shapes. And then these, let's see here, hexagons, but they're really kind of goofy shaped hexagons. Super fun. Let me show you these in the catalog. So the dies, actually we'll start with the stamp set. We're actually going to be casing this card tonight. This is where I got my idea from. This is on page 28 is the stamp set. And then of course the dies are right there. The dies are in the back on page 165, the Nested Essentials dies. They do work with the mini cut and emboss machine. And then there's lots of samples throughout the catalog, but there's one, for example. And then on this page, this one here is another example. This die cut behind there is another example. Lots of examples throughout the catalog. So let's get stamping. This first card, like I said, here, I'll bring that back. This first card, like I said, I'm casing. There are things I like about this card. There are things I'm not super fond of. I like the different colors. I like how that's stamped. I'm not a huge fan of the longer cards. I like to make my cards all really basically either the note card size or the 5.5 by 4 1/4 size. That's my personal preference. This technique that I'm showing you will absolutely work with the long slimline cards. That's what they're called. So let's get cracking. I'm going to bring in some inks. I've got Daffodil Delight, Real Red, and Blueberry Bushel. So we've got just a nice classic colors, and then Basic Gray. I'm going to set that one aside for right now. Let me pull in my cheat sheet for you here. Let's see here. This one here. This is what the card will look like when we're done, like that. So that's what we're making. I have got a piece of Daffodil Delight, 8.5 by 5.5, scored down the middle at 4 1/4. We'll set that aside because it's going to be a little while. Got a piece of Basic Gray, 5 3/8 by 4. I know that's kind of a weird measurement, but that's Basic Gray cardstock. Then I've got a piece of Basic White cardstock, 5 1/4 by 3 7/8. There's a reason for that weird measurement. And then I've got a piece of Basic White thick cardstock. This does not need to be Basic White, but it does need to be a more substantial cardstock. If you've got some other cardstock laying around or some other material laying around, it just needs to be a little bit more substantial because we're going to make a mask. So that is 3 by 4 1/4. There's a reason for that size. And then a scrap of Basic White. So here's what we are going to do. So I said that this is 3 by 4 1/4. So we're going to measure we're going back to some drafting drafting stuff. So I'm sorry here if I put my head in front of the camera. I'm going to make a little tick mark at 1.5 at the top, and I'm going to make a tick mark at 1.5 at the bottom. And what I'm doing is I'm finding the center. This is only going to be a mask, so I do not need it. Like it's okay if you see the marks is what I'm saying. So there's that one, and then this is, I have to get rid of that for a second, 4 1/4. So I need to go 2 1/8. Just make a little tick mark, and 2 1/8. And then just draw a straight line, connecting those 2 tick marks. So there's our center, right? The reason I need to find that is because I am going to bring in my nested label dies, and we're creating a mask. So what I want to do is center this. And I'm not centering it exact, but I'm getting it really, really close. The points of the die you can line right up on there. These here and here and here and here, I'm eyeballing it. I do this every time. I'm eyeballing it. I'm going to bring in some of my Post-it note tape. We're going to eyeball it again. And I'm just going to tape that down. Now I'm going to run that through my cut and emboss machine. Okay. So again, I don't want that flat edge going through first. I want a corner going through first. So just cantering it a little bit so that my corner goes through first. It's easier on the cut and emboss machine. It's easier on the die so it doesn't warp as much. And you're going to find it doesn't make that big cracking sound whenever you run it through your cut and emboss machine if you put a corner through first. Now, if I were you, I should have, okay, we'll use that again. If I were you and I didn't have this, or even if I erased it, I've got it on both sides because I thought I need to show you how to do that. Anyhow, I need to save this for another project. Okay, so now you'll notice I've got down a piece of grid paper. There's a reason for that. Normally I don't work with a lot of grid paper at home. I do at stamp camps, but not at home. I'm going to tonight put it down because I need to use these grid measurements. So I'm also going to put just a little tick mark at 1 1/8, and then I'm going to flip it over. Not going to flip it over. I'm going to go 1 1/8 again, and I'm going to make another tick mark. That's so I have a guide as to where my mask is going to line up. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to line up my piece of paper that I'm using, that I'm going to be putting my graphics on. I'm going to line it up right there. And then I am going to just line this mask up, and the mask opening from top to bottom is the same as my piece of paper. So it's 3 7/8. So I'm going to tack that down. Don't put it over the edge because we're going to slide this piece back and forth. And I'm going to tack this end down. So now we are going to be able to slide this to where we need it. So we're going to start with it. So up and down, you want to be right even with the opening. And then on the edge, you want it right up to the, oh, there we go. We want it right up to the edge. Sometimes this thinking thing gets really tricky. I'm going to move this to the center because I have a feeling I'm going to pull it up otherwise. So what I mean by that is my paper that I'm using is right up on the edge, and right at the edge here, and right at the edge here. And now I've got a lot of room. Got some sticky. Okay. We're going to start with yellow, the Daffodil Delight, and I'm using mini blending brushes. If you don't have the mini and you have the large ones, feel free. Don't worry about it. The mini, I just so happened to grab tonight. They do work a little bit better, I feel, because they're smaller. But we are just going to kind of hold that down. And the reason that I made this 3 inches wide and not narrower is so that I've got a little room that I don't go off the edge over here, if that makes sense. I think I just moved my thing. Sometimes we need one more hand. Okay, so now that's all there is to that. What I'm going to do is move this so that it's still lining up on the edges, but I'm going to use those tick marks, and I'm going to place my paper right in between them. And I'm also going to make sure that my guides, that my grid paper is, or my regular paper, my image paper, is lined up with the lines, because I've got everything lined up, right? So now, we'll close this up. I'm going to take my real red, remember to start off the edge, and just blend that in. And the reasons that I chose the primary colors rather than choosing some of the, like a green or a purple, is because I wanted this. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. My measurements were off. Oh, son of a gun. See how this works? I wanted my measurements to line up. That one's lining up. Let's flip this over. Let's do it again. So I've got my 3 inches. Let me think here. One and an eighth, 1 and an eighth. Okay, I'm going to take my paper, and I'm not going to measure. I've got it lined up here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and about a half. 1, 2, 3, 4, and about a half. This is how I really do things. About a half. Okay. So now that should be, it works so nice on this one when I did it narrower. Maybe I'll have to do it narrower. Okay, see how this all works? How I choose and then I scrap it and I start over? I'm sorry, guys. My brain, this is where my brain goes. I need some thick cardstock. And a trimmer. Obviously, I made this work because I just made this card a little while ago. I promise I can do this. Oh, I'm glad you guys stick with me. It makes me so happy that you do. Oh, geez Louise. Let's try this again. I'm going to totally eyeball this time. Stick it down. Where did my tape go? I threw that tape away. Let's grab new tape. I'm eyeballing it to the center. I'm gonna run it through my cut and emboss machine quick. Did I ever tell you that math was my hardest subject in school? It really was. Okay. Now, we are going to keep that for another project sometime. We're going to get rid of these tick marks. I'm going to show you how I did the last one, which seems to me like it was tricky, but maybe it was the way it should have been. Okay, so I cut that, and I'm going to grab my ruler that I like. I thought I'd use this one because it's kind of more normal, but I'm just not a normal kind of girl, and, well, you know. Okay. So I cut this one at 2.5. Five and a quarter minus 2.5. Oh, geez. There's my Minnesotan. I usually use my phone for this. It'd be 2.75. That can't be right. 1.75? That can't be right. One and a quarter plus an eighth. See, there's my brain. That's how my brain works right there. 1 1/4 plus an eighth. So 1 1/4 plus an eighth. That's center. 1 1/4 plus an eighth. Oh, look at that. See? When my math works, when I just can ramble, it works. Sorry if you didn't follow that. 1 1/4 plus an eighth would be 1 3/8. Yay! I passed, you know, like 3rd grade. Woohoo! Okay, so now we're going to do this again. I'm lining it up on the marks. I am going to tape this down. Oh my word. This is not as hard as I'm making it feel like. I promise. Okay, let's start again with the Daffodil Delight on the very edge. And the reason I want to do that is because last time when I didn't start with the Daffodil Delight on the very edge, I made kind of this orange color because when I did, it pulled red over, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to try it without doing that. You know what? Let's start in the middle. Let's start in the middle. That way I know when I'm doing it. We'll just contaminate my ink. Okay, possibly not. I know what I'll do. I'll go to blue second. Okay, so we're gonna start off. We're gonna go red. Just be cautious not to go off the edge, just like that. It'll be fine. We're gonna move to the left. We're gonna do the blueberry bushel. We're gonna keep it lined up with our inside. We're doing the outside edge, and we're doing the top and the bottom. Okay, there we go. So we're gonna grab some blueberry bushel, and be cautious, blueberry bushel is ridiculously dark. So you wanna be very stingy with it. That's what I wanted to show you. It's covering up and making this really cool purple color there. But just be careful not to go off of the edge to make a line there, okay? So now we're gonna pull it over through to the other side. We're gonna line it up with the edge. So 2 1/4 inches is the magic number, okay? Now we're gonna do yellow, which I think I've already loaded yellow up, not enough. We're gonna start from the top so I don't get like a funky green. I'm gonna anyhow. It's not bad though. You can still tell it's yellow. There we go. Okay. There, isn't that pretty? Now let's erase our tick marks, which will be erasable. Okay, so now let's get rid of this. Ay, ay, ay. Sometimes the struggle is so real. I'm telling you. Be cautious when you're doing that you don't contaminate your ink pad. My ink did get a little yucky there. Just be cautious that you don't contaminate your ink pad. Okay, now I've got my ink pads all open here. I'm going to take the ice cream cone, and I'm going to wash it off quick because I didn't wash it after I used it last time. The other thing you're going to really want to use, this stamp set is photopolymer. I found that it's kind of touchy with the inks. So make sure you're using something under your paper. Straight down, straight up. Do it in the red. I need to stand up so I can get it. straight down, straight up. And I am eyeballing it, but I'm getting really close. Because it's photopolymer, you can line it up really well. Straight down, straight up. Ah! We're gonna figure something out for that, because that was a lot of work. Oh my goodness gracious. See guys, I struggle some days. I can do this card. I'm telling you, I can. Let's close these up so I don't set something inside of it. Okay. So what we are going to do is mat that onto the gray. Fold our daffodil delight in half. Grab some. See, nobody's gonna see that side that I didn't measure correctly on. We're just gonna hide it away under the side that I dropped the ink stamp on. And we're gonna figure it out. Straight down, or centered onto the cardstock. All right, so let's see what we can do. I had originally fussy cut these out, which is a labor of love, and I had them all ready for us. But guess what? That is not going to cover up our boo-boo. So let's cover up our boo-boo. We are going to, how can I do it, guys? You know what? I'm still going to do that, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to find, I've got some ribbon that is red. Rid of my pin mark. And I was going to do baker's twine, but we're going to change that up, and we're going to put that right there. How's that for you? Yeah. I'm telling you, we can hide anything. Never look under my ribbons, huh? There we go. Let's grab our baker's twine. I got an idea. We're going to fold this in half. Normally I tie right off the end, but not tonight because this is such a different kind of ribbon. I'm going to actually tie a bow. So tonight I can't even tie my shoes. There we go. So we're going to tie just a simple bow there. I'm going to make it a little smaller. There we go. Okay. So now let's attach that roughly right there. We're going to grab a glue dot. And I'm going to tell you, this is not the one that's going to be in the picture for the YouTube video. So if you are watching and you are like, that's not what your picture looked like, that's because I'm hiding things. The real one is this one. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Okay, So we are going to, here was what my plan was. We're going to attach cool right down just like that. I'm going to snip these little strings off. There we go. We're going to attach that directly down. Just like that. Get that out of there. And then this, I'm going to put a couple of dimensionals on. And we are going to just line that up like that. Super cool. As an embellishment, I thought maybe just some basic rhinestone jewels. Classics. So we're going to take a big one, put that on the yellow, a little bit on the red, and one more on the blue. So there we go. That's my Remedies version. I'm going to show you this. We're going to cross this out, and it ended up being 2 1/4. I need a Sharpie. There it is. So it was not 3. It was 4 1/4 by 2 1/4. Okay. And then those tick marks we put in at 1 3/8 from each edge. So a tick mark from here and a tick mark from the white side over here, just so that we could center that red one to start with. So there is card number 1. Let you take a screenshot of that. The second card is so much easier, guys, I promise. Look, it's a smaller list of stuff. All right. There's no masking either. Okay, so the second one, we are going to pull in. This is the second card that we're going to make. Way easier. Same set, same dies. So we've got a piece of early espresso. That is 8 1/2 by 5 1/2, scored down the middle at 4 1/4. A piece of real red, 4 by 5 1/4. A piece of basic white that's roughly 3 by 5, excuse me. And a piece of this is gingham DSP. Really cool DSP. Just remember the last day for the DSP sale is today. This is on sale. It's 6 by 6 DSP. Has the colors of Berry Burst, Blueberry Bushel, Lemon Lime Twist, Pecan Pie, and Pretty Peacock. It's really cool. It's this pattern on one side and this pattern on the other. Really just a nice DSP. It's super usable. So, and then a piece of basic white for on the inside. So we're just going to fold our early espresso, burnish that. Okay, so now I am going to take this really big die, the biggest one, which let me just pull this in because I've made a mess out of it because I got flustered. Okay, so I am taking the biggest nested essentials label die. We're going to use that. I am going to cut one out of this piece of designer series paper. I'm going to also cut one out of the basic white. Run that through my cut and emboss machine. So there's one, and then the basic white. All right, so the only inks that I'm going to use, put this back, are going to be Real Red and Early Espresso. And I want to show you a trick for mounting the stamps too, because I did not mount this stamp. I'm going to use, here again, I'm going to use my grid paper to get 2 stamps on one block. So, because if you look at my card, I've got You Are So Sweet. It looks like one image, right? But it's 2 different stamps. Okay, so I'm going to take the You Are So, and I'm going to take Sweet out. and I am going to line up, I'm using the bottom of the letters and I'm lining that up on the grid paper. So I'm lining it up with one line, okay? And the "You Are So," I am lining up where I want it with another line. So I've kind of set it off to the side and I've lined it up with another line. So now I'm just going to take my block and I'm going to stick those straight down and straight up. So now my sentiment, I'm only going to have to stamp it once. It's going to save me a little bit, make sure, especially tonight, make sure I get them all straight. So here again, this kind of image, these are nice and solid images. You're going to want to use some kind of mat. The Stampin' Pierce mat works great for those images. All right, so I've got my piece of basic white, my cutout of basic white, got my early espresso. I'm also going to grab my Wink of Stella pen. You're going to love this trick. So I'm going to take the "You Are So Sweet," and I'm going to stamp that right there. Beautiful. And now I'm going to take the cola bottle and I'm going to kind of canter it a little bit right there. And then while the ink is wet, this works really good with early espresso. While the ink is wet, I'm going to come in and I'm just going to Wink of Stella over the bottom part of the bottle. It's going to pull in a little bit of that ink and it's going to kind of color it, kind of the shade of a cola. Just give it a little bit of something. I'm also going to do the same thing up here because there's cola up there as well. So I'm just pulling that in. I'm not doing the label itself. I'm just going right up to the bottom of the label. So, neat little trick. It kind of makes it so it colors it a shade of brown. I love it. And then it does not, if you don't trust yourself, you can rub your Wink of Stella off on your grid paper. It doesn't transfer onto your Wink of Stella pen. While I've got my ink pads out, I am going to take that cola bottle and I'm going to just put one right on the inside. If you wanted to do a Wink of Stella on that, let's do that. Because the insides can be fancy too. And I love this trick. Some of the really deep saturated colors, this works really well on. Night of Navy is one. The early espresso. Some of just those really nice, deep, dark colors. The ones that stain your stamps, they work really well on that. So let's close everything up. And now I am going to set that just aside for a second. I'm going to bring in my trimmer and I am going to cut this basically in half. Right around 1 1/4. When I say 1 1/4, what I'm doing is I'm putting that all the way up to the top and I'm just balancing. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but roughly 1 1/4, a little, so probably 1 3/8 again. So now I've just cut that in half and I'm going to use it to make a shadow around that. So the way I adhere that is with my glue runner. I just take and I set it down. And this technique works really good with any shape that has 2 flat edges. So because this has 2 flat edges, you can run it like it just runs really nice along that edge. Do the same thing on this side. And I'm eyeballing it to get them pretty close. And I'm just tapping it, pushing it down. I don't want to push too hard yet because I'm afraid that some of my ink might be just a little damp yet. So now I'm going to flip that over. I'm going to put some adhesive on the back. I'm going to grab this really pretty, it is bordered linen or bordered ribbon. I think the color they call this is Pretty Pecan or pretty pecan. Oh my word. Pecan pie. Go to bed, Mandy. Okay. Do you ever have those days? I didn't think I was having one of those days, but apparently I am. Okay. So we're just going to make, it's a Z. It's just a zigzaggy Z. I like to use, when it's a nice thick ribbon like this, I don't want to mess up my edges. So this is my fabric scissors, the ones that my children are not allowed to touch ever. There have been occasions, but they need to ask permission and they sign a document. No, they don't, but they don't touch mom's fabric scissors. Do you guys have fabric scissors too that are like off limits to everybody? Totally off limits. Okay, so I'm going to leave this sit upside down because I forgot one part. I am going to here it is. I've got my dots. It's a polka dotted, kind of like a bubbly embossing folder. This comes in, it's an online exclusive. It comes in a pack of 3. One of them is kind of a hatched pattern, and this one, and then there's one that's kind of flowery. They're really pretty. I love these embossing folders. So we are going to make our sandwich using a 3D embossing folder. So we need just plate 1 and plate 4 and our embossing folder. So we're going to run that through the cut and emboss machine. All right, and here we go. And I thought this was fun because it added kind of a little bubbly thing, our bubbly soda. It's just a neat look. So let's adhere that down. See, this one's working out so much better. And I totally just jinxed myself, but I think you'll all agree it's working out better. All right, press that down. I'm going to grab some dimensionals because I've got ribbon on the back of that. It needs to pop up, otherwise it's not going to sit very nicely. And this is a very large piece of sentiment here that we're bumping up with the dimensionals. So you're going to have to use quite a few. Don't go skimpy on them because you don't want it to sag down. It's not gonna look as nice. So I'm just going to center that on there. Oh, I love it. That reminds me of the Cola brands. They're all that color, right? Kind of the browns and the reds. Red goes with Cola so well. And I had originally done this card in kind of a green and did this as like a purple. So like the Gorgeous Grape, thinking, oh, grape soda, because in my head, I don't know why grape soda comes in a bottle. And then I realized it said sweet cola. So changed it to brown, and I love how it turned out. So that is, oh, let's add some bling. Let's add some bling. These are Neutrals adhesive back sequins. I really like them because there's not many neutral colored sequins, not many neutral colored, a lot of metal colored, what am I trying to say, embellishments, but not really like, these aren't metal, and I like them. I think they just go perfect with that. They look like the cola, right? So there is card number 2. So I am going to flip my camera back around. Connie, I love that you say awesome. You must not have watched the first card. It was tough. It was tough. So bad. I want to give you a couple of reminders. Get this situated here. A couple of reminders. Today is the last day of the paper sale. 15% off designer series paper. Basically, it's most of the designer series papers that are inside the catalog, and then also the online exclusive designer series paper. So today's the last day to take care of that. It's also the last day for the joining promotion. If you want to join Stampin' Up, right now they're having a special where you get $155 worth of product for just the $99, and there's no there's tax, but there's no shipping. So that's a great, great deal also. Otherwise, that is all I have for you tonight. I am so appreciative that you stuck with me, because that was a challenge. I appreciate you sticking with me. I will see you next Friday night. Have a great 4th of July holiday weekend. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.